Summit with the Roundtable of Education and Communication. We will focus in different topics such as the training and dissemination of knowledge, academies, master, workshops, tutorials, and blogs. We will discuss how to communicate our profession to the society, different ways of sharing knowledge, and the importance of the creative development as 3D artists. Our first participant in this roundtable will be Adán Martín. Adán is a professional in the Archviz industry with over 15 years of experience, specializing in 3D animation direction. Seeking to diversify and grow as an artist, he was ventured into the film industry, working as a gaffer, cameraman, and photographer in films and advertising projects internationally. He has a highly popular Spanish YouTube channel with tutorials. I guess you all know and have heard his voice over the screen, so today you can hear him live. And this channel is dedicated to teaching enthusiasts and professionals. He also is a consultant and trainer for various private Archviz and VR studios. Welcome, Adán. And our next participant is Jason Bergeron. Jason studied architecture in Arkansas and is the creative director at Burowatt, an Archviz studio of Vienna. With the rest of the team of Burowatt, he organizes the D2 conferences. Founded with the goal of bringing together the best from the Archviz business, the D2 conferences has become one of the premier architectural visualization conferences in the world in only 3 years. 1987 was the year that Jason first encountered 3D graphics when he was introduced to AutoCAD 2.6. And by the age of 14, he decided to become an architect. After graduating, Jason moved to New York to work as an architect, and in 2003, he moved with his Austrian wife to Vienna, where lately he joined Fabio Palvelli and Christian Kobierski to found the creative office Burowatt and the D2 conference. Welcome, Jason. And our next participant in this roundtable of education and communication will be Gianpiero Monopoli. Gianpiero is the CEO and director at State of Art Studio. He founded the SOA studio with Roberto and Manuela. State of Art is a studio that produces architectural visualization and an international academy focused on the training of Archviz. In 2007, Gianpiero worked for Heisen Davidson as a project lead artist. He's also the curator of SOA Academy Day, an international architectural visualization event that consists in 2-day workshop in Venice for professionals and passionate architectural visualization artists, and above all, a meeting where it is possible to get in touch with international artists who take part in their artworks. Welcome. And then, you know, in this panel, we also had announced that Trond Gref from MIR would be in this panel, but unluckily he couldn't make it. We are very sorry, and we want to apologize for this. As we announced yesterday in our social medias, Trond could not be able to attend to the summit due to health issues. He sends his apologies and feels very disappointed for not being here today. And our next participant is Daniel Bas. Daniel Bas is an architect and is a professor of MIAU, the Master of Infographics and Multimedia Design in Madrid. And at the same university, he's a professor at the Master of Architectural Communication, so he has a lot to tell in this round table. He has collaborated with different architects and has developed his activities surrounded by the digital tools of all kinds, which has made him known and deeply suspicious of them. This lack of confidence in these tools materializes in a critical approach in applications and digital methodologies, both local production and teaching experience, inevitably drifting towards heterodox results between the worlds of craft and digital. Welcome, Dani. And the moderator of this roundtable is Andreu Arevalo. Andreu finished his studies of architecture 3 years ago and has been working as an architectural visualizer for several studios. Now he works as a freelancer and is starting his own business. He runs a blog specialized in unbuilt architecture with his friend Carlos Gonzalo, that is also here, called betaarchitecture.com, where architecture is just shown as a prototype, emphasizing the idea behind every project. He loves doing sports in the mountains. He's a guitarist of a pop band called Tycho Brahe that will be awarded at the next Grammys. And he's absolutely passionate about traveling. Welcome, Andreu.
Hi, everybody. Well, thank you, Anna, for your presentation. I guess you're a bit optimistic about the Grammy thing, but well, thank you anyway. Well, first of all, the most important thing, how was your lunchtime? I guess for the people who came from abroad, you haven't had enough time to taste one of our paellas. But, well, let's see what happens tonight. Okay, well, now it's time to start with the third round table. Okay, we're going to talk about education, communication, and everything that can be related with. I have to say that it's an honor for me to take part in this debate and to have the opportunity to discuss with you all guys about one of the most important topics regarding the future of our profession. And well, it's a shame that we can count on Tron Gref, but anyway, I hope this debate is going to be super interesting as well. Okay, so I would like to start introducing an issue that is pretty common, at least in Spain. Most of us are architects or have studied something related with architecture or design. And our field has been consolidated during the last years as a promising opportunity or job opportunity for the young architects collective. But however, the schools of architecture maybe are really distant from the real Archviz world production. So it seems that universities don't bet hard on this direction, and probably that's why people are not trained enough in a productive way to join a company at the beginning. So it depends on the brightness of every student and their patience while practicing through trial and error. And in most cases, as all of the learning options are so dispersed as tutorials, blogs, and so on, maybe most people begin to learn in a wrong way, focusing on some examples and memorizing some right parameters, but without knowing the reasons of these actions or without a general comprehension of the software. So what do you think? So does it happen in your surroundings? And what can we do as active members or companies to solve this formative situation?
Okay, maybe I can talk from the university perspective. Mm-hmm. And there are like two things I can say. One is that we have to count with that in university you have to learn like a lot of things. Yeah. So there is no room for everything. This is something that it's like every professional always wants the university to fulfill his ambitions and that, no, regarding like young people. Mm-hmm. And in the other hand, there is also like a very important thing that is that the idea of Archviz, it's a very commercial idea. Yeah, it's here we are talking about the business in Archviz. And academia or university, it's not about that. No? It's more about research, about creating new concepts, about developing, pushing the borders of the market, maybe. Something that maybe it's not happening also in the commercial world. No? And until now, it hasn't been a critical review on Archviz from university. I think it's the moment. And in Madrid, this master's, in which I'm lecturing and giving classes, this is our ambition, no? To have like a a critical view on all this stuff.
Yeah.
I think this could be also a problem why in university the Archviz is something like from the outside. Still.
We have seen in years when we started SOA that there was a gap between the university and the real production world. And architectural visualization, if we can call it, in the university is just a part of the process of designing, the building. So what you do in the university that we can actually call architectural visualization is just related to how to present the design of something that you are working on. So let's say that the teachers they have inside, they are not really trained in explaining why people have to do the images in such a way, or which kind of tools they should use properly to get a specific result. And this is a big issue, because when you have a studio and you have to hire people, we always try to let's say evaluate the talent of the people, and we feel that if we invest into the young people, probably the future will be better. But if the young people in the university are not trained to do what we actually do, the future it can be really tough somehow. Okay, and this is the reason why companies like SOA felt the need to start doing classes for people, because for ourselves it was really difficult to find artists or people that were willing to pursue that kind of career. Because when you are in the architecture university, probably you think, okay, I'm gonna be the new Renzo Piano or Richard Mayer or wherever.
But
okay,
it's not gonna happen.
But how many people succeed in that kind of thing? So, in my opinion, university should be more connected to the real world production, and the companies can help the university to achieve this result. But right now there is a huge gap in this. So that's the thing that we are thinking to develop in the future as SOA.
How can their help to universities doing something, communicating better
the thing is that we can propose to the universities that architectural visualization can be an industry where people can actually live with that, we can actually have a proper life with that job, and they can be satisfied with that job without being the new Renzo Piano, or without feeling like just part of the process. So we need to try to explain to the young generations that what we do is something really, really important. Okay, and if they study architecture is a base where you can build up your career in Archviz as well. And probably this is a message that the university doesn't give to the people. Okay, and this is why, we started Academy. That was the main goal for us, because we couldn't really find artists, talented people where we could build,
train,
the future of what we do.
Well, I have a personal opinion about education. I believe that we need to change education. We are not focusing on learning the tools and how to make things. And in my personal opinion, education and university should be about develop yourself, to prepare your mindset to work in whatever you want, no? To help you to find your tools, or to help you think in a more critical way. And I think it's not happening like that. Universities, I think, is still focusing on teaching, like, for example, how to use a tool. And I believe that you will learn how to use a tool because you will have to use that tool for a lot of years. No? But I found really more interesting if you develop your creativity during university, because it's where you need to develop those skills. And I think, for example, if you are a teacher and you want to teach people, it's difficult to also be part of a studio. You guys are doing a great job in that matter, but not everyone can do it. So I think universities can change it, can focus on create the mindset and have the help from professional studios that help bring the professional perspective into university.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not actually from the education background like the rest of the panel here. The D2 conferences is really focused more on professionals who are already practicing Archviz. But I will add that I think that is part of the case that in universities, especially if you're talking about an architecture university, they're not really interested in teaching Archviz because the point of it is to teach architects and to make architects. But there's a real big opportunity there because even if you only have, 10% or 20% end up being working in Archviz, the rest of them are going to have to work with people in the Archviz industry. And if they're educated in a way about what that entails, what that takes to create images, then it'll make it a lot easier for everyone. I mean, one of the main problems we have a lot of times with working with other architects is that you hear it all the time. They don't understand what we do, or they don't. They want something that we don't want to do, and I think this is where the big opportunity lies. That's basically the point. Huh?
Yes, yeah. So we're talking now something related with the creative development as well. So I think that most people are used to focus on the techniques and the knowledge of the software. Sometimes there are plenty of discussions online about which render engine is better currently. But this is not about what you use. What really matters is how you use it. So sometimes it's quite difficult to find talent to join our companies that way because people maybe focus on other things. And but I think that probably there is a big problem in society while developing creativity because people are used to consume a lot of information, a lot of images and multimedia content every day, but without a critical spirit. So the imagination, I know that you agree with me that imagination is one of our best weapons, or it should be. So perhaps there is a hole in the education system or whatever from the very beginning, and this can affect to the perception that society has about us as well. Because as they tend to think that our job sometimes is just to press a button and rest while the computer does all of the work. And so what do you think we can do to improve and re-educate this general perception and to shape the creative spirit?
I think this is like kind of very difficult, yeah? Mm-hmm. But there are like simple steps that are very easy at the same time. For example, from my perspective, when we are teaching about modeling, we don't call it 3D Max, the matter, no, in the course. It's not about 3D Max. It's not even modeling. We call it, morphologies. Yeah. Or we talk about geometry, okay? And the 4 hours a day or whatever it's about this thing, we are not the 4 hours talking about menus and sub-menus and this option, click here, click whatever, no? We try to really help students to, what Adán said, no? To develop thinking, a deep thinking on what they are doing. What is modeling and what it's really about, think about the details, no? You can say something, make chamfers, no? Mm-hmm. You have to make them understand that reality is complex and that you have to be accurate with the detail because also, for example, hyperrealism or photorealism, this is also another debate, but there are no conferences in YouTube talking about this.
Yeah.
But there are like tons of YouTube tutorials talking about how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no reflection about these things. So there are like simple things that we can do to move the bar from a technical approach to a more critical. No, I think this could be done.
Well, I don't have the exact answer of how to solve this problem, but I believe there is a problem, and I believe that when there is a problem, we can complain about it, or we can start making something in order to change it. And I believe, in my case, I'm trying to do something in my channel. No, I don't know if you guys know it. I'm trying to show a different way of thinking. I know a lot of people can think that my channel is about understanding the tool, but it's more about show how to think about something, because I believe that the tool doesn't matter at all. And I think in education, every day it's more important to be creative, in any job. Like maybe 40 years ago, it wasn't like that. You only need to know how to do some simple steps. If you don't want to be an artist, okay, if you want to be like, I don't know, have a regular job. But nowadays, you need to be creative in almost any job. The level of competition is incredible. And being creative, you are ahead of everyone if you are creative, because you can solve problems. Being creative is not only about being able to imagine something. It's about being able to create something. Can be a solution for a problem, a mathematical problem, for example. Can be an image. You can imagine some sort of image and create something with it. And I believe in our industry, it's really important that we develop this creativity. And I think it's something we need to do together. Like, for example, AVA, it's a great example of something we can do about it. We can make a community and start thinking about those things and start making things happening, like by little steps. You can do everything. I don't have like the secret
for sure.
answer. It's like
super complex issue. Yeah.
Everyone can do something.
I've been thinking about this thing a couple of days ago, and I think that the gap of the creativity is something we have to start. We have to try to solve from the basis. And for me, the basis are, because I have 2 kids, is something that families has to start thinking when they have kids. Because what I realize right now is that we are living in a period where, in an era, I would say, where we are always busy. And the education of the kids is really harder. So you arrive at home at night, you are really tired. So you don't want to being bothered by the kids that are there. They want to play with you. You just give them the iPad, and that's it. And that thing, in that moment, you are killing the creativity. Because you can say, there is the app, on the iPad, you can play with the
easy way.
things, etc., etc. But that is not developing the creativity. So what I think is that creativity is something that has to be developed from the beginning, so from the nursery school. And what is happening right now, and if I see the big one, I have, Matthias is 12 years old. I see that all that kind of topics like arts, like music, that normally I had when I did the primary school, secondary school, they are completely kind of disappear from the schools. And this is a huge thing. It's a huge issue, because if we don't let the new generation thinking about that there is the art, the beauty around us, it's gonna be difficult when they grow up to let them thinking in a creative way. The more you are older and the more you don't accept You can't really change your mind because you have already your mindset. Okay, so I think that this is a problem that we need to start to solve from the beginning. Because right now I feel this kind of thing. When we do the courses at Academy, you know, of course, you know, guys, softwares are tools. I wouldn't say they are not important. They are part of what we do. Because if we don't know the tools we use, we can't deliver anything basically. So the tools matters, in my opinion. So you have at least to master the techniques. But then your personal research, after you are mastering the tools, is about the cultural aspects of your background. Okay, and this is something that really happened to me. You know, I was that guy that was really fascinating by the new software, 3ds Max, Maya, wherever. I arrived at one point where I was doing nice, decent images, but I felt like there was something missing into the images. Yeah. Okay. And when I went to London, you know, in IS, that was for me something that really completely changed my career somehow, because there I realized that my gap was into the cultural background I had in terms of images, because I couldn't get the correct images in terms of composition, color palette, etc., which is bad, because we are artists, so we should know those kind of things from the basics, you know, when we are at school. If you do this when you are already grown up, it's really difficult. So when I teach to guys, they are like 25, 30 years old, it's really complicated to let them understand that the software they use is just 30% of the job, okay?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say that going to the source, and in my mind, the university is a good place to start, but you went even further, and I think this is actually really important, is in general. It's like a philosophical question almost, you know, how do you bring up your kids? But the reality of it is that it's the responsibility of all of us to communicate with the clients and architects and whoever, to educate them about what we do, to get over those problems about how it's viewed. Nobody knows what we do. That's on us. It's on all of us. And I believe it's also a little bit generational. I think that younger architects, of course, they have a much better idea of what goes into someone making images, because they've seen it. They're younger. They know. Maybe they learned some programs. They did some stuff. Even if they're working in an architecture office, and also the younger people in the offices generally are working on those things in the office. If you go up in age, the further up you go in age and status of the architect, then the further removed they are from that. So it's also kind of a matter of time, you know, I believe it's also, I mean, I've been doing it for, I've been practicing architecture for 15 years or longer, and doing Archviz for half of it at least, and it's already better. I mean, there's already a better understanding than back then. But this is probably the thing. Maybe we have to wait as well a little bit. Like it's just a matter that it's gonna more and more people understand.
It takes time.
And the more that they understand, actually, it's better. It can be better, good and bad. The good part is that they realize it takes a lot of work to do these things. But the bad part is that then they maybe want to tell you what settings you want to use. You know.
Yeah, sure. Taking your approach. I think that one of the biggest issues that every company or freelancer have in their careers is to know how to deal with clients successfully as well. So, and how to develop their own business in financial terms as well. And it's like a science that nobody teaches, but we have to face it every day, and it consumes a lot of energy and time. So in that terms, how can we learn to manage these kind of things? Because should we do something to communicate better our work, or should the architects be educated as well as clients of the the Archviz industry. And maybe the first step to recognize our discipline as a stable and respectable profession is to come to an agreement about which name identifies our job. No? Because I don't know if we are 3D artists, architectural visualizers, CG architects. No, just kidding. But which are your impressions about all of this?
I think that we need to like speak a lot with clients. What I really learn in this industry is that most of the time it's not really the output that really matters, but it's the way how you try to communicate the scope of what you want to do with the clients. Making a relationship with clients is not an easy thing. Sometimes it's not even related to the business side. It's how you like relate with them. You know, if they like you as a person, as a human being, you can work with them. You can even work at really high level. And for sure, the main thing that I realized is that unfortunately our industry is a little bit random in terms of process. Because if someone approaches, I don't know, the Victor studio and approaches, I don't know, the Ronen studio or Andras studios, probably the clients will find different ways to get the same kind of product, but with different, you know, the workflow or things they can ask or cannot, etc., etc. And so that, in my opinion, generates sort of confusion. Because the client at the end doesn't know who will deliver the better product for
purposes,
him. Okay, so process is really important. I think that we should define the way how the client expects the result. Okay, so the communicating that is really important. So when you approach to a client, okay, he has to like you first. You have to feel connected with the client, but then the client has to agree about your process, so your way to do things. And this requires a lot of time. Most of the time this process here, this explanation to the client requires more time than producing the visuals.
Sure,
Okay, but this is something that everyone has to do, in my opinion, if they want to struggle less as possible, let's say. Because communicating with the client is very important. So education is not just about us, because education about us, it can be, in my opinion, defining a process. Because making an image can follow pretty much the same rules. So let's say starting by the image plan, mood board, and so we know what's the process. So if we are able to define the process, then the client can actually expect that kind of thing because it is going to happen in that way. But then our capabilities is to communicate to the client what's the final scope of the job, which is different from the process. Okay, and that requires, as I said, a lot of time. Okay, so we need to invest on that, because most of the time what I've seen is that the client calls some guys and they say, I need one image, and the guys, you know, brings the model, make the images, and then 1 week after they send the image, and that's it. But that's not the way how it should be, because in that case the client can see the image, can say, this is not what I asked to you. So and it generates, you know, all the problems we face every day, every morning. Okay.
I think I have like an advice. Took me more than 10 years. Realized that we all need to learn about business, not only about 3D. If you want to make your company, or if you want to be freelance, you need to learn about business. I don't know, you take a course or do something, because it took me 10 years to realize that I was doing everything wrong. You know, I feel like a prisoner for my clients, like I'm doing the dirty job for them. But when I realized that if the deal wasn't for both of us. If I didn't get what I want and the client didn't get what they want, I won't take it, you know. So I was risky because I was, I can lose everything, you know. I can lose all my clients. In my head, it's like, okay, I'm full of this. I can't stand more. So, and it changed everything for me. Suddenly, the clients start respecting me more and giving me more money and respecting my conditions, and I feel like I have control on the situation. You know, I don't feel anymore like a prisoner on the relationship with the clients. But also, I think that I realized that I never learned anything on the school or anywhere about business, about how to run a studio or how to talk with clients. So it's something normal, and I think we need to learn about these kind of things, you know, business, but do it, not just think about it. It's important if you want to succeed in this business. It's important you start learning about business, not only 3D and not only the machine, you know, also business.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about business again.
It's the main
It's
thing.
every time. We're talking about business again.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to what you asked, because I think that's an interesting idea about what are we called. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're talking about
experts,
on
this matter.
If we're talking about like straight offices who only do architecture visualization, I mean, that's it. I think that's it.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that it sounds like what you're talking about is, are we a trade or something? Can we be grouped into some category where we have a specific name? The thing is, I think at the moment, no. Because in order to have that, you would need to have more schools like SOA who are teaching only that, where you can say, I have a degree or a certification or whatever in this thing. Maybe that's another matter of time. If more people create schools for that thing. I mean, the thing is, it's not probably a huge industry in terms of overall. Doing Archviz only it's not huge. You know? But that problem could probably be solved with more schools which are very specifically teaching that thing. Or even programs within universities, even if it's not a full, we're not talking about a full degree, because having an architectural background is extremely important and helpful in that job. But if there was something related to that, then you could say, yes, it's a job, and it has a job title, and that's what it is. But I'm also not completely convinced that's really important, you know, in the end.
Yeah, for sure.
Getting back to the thing about the business and how also maybe we can link this with creativity, no? Because today you even have to be creative in how you focus a business plan and all your branding, no? Of your own image. And I think this is also like a theme to talk about in schools and all of that. And this is also inside the topic of the creative thing. So I think it's not outside of this box. Yeah.
If I can add something about this, business, of course, is part of what we do. If we pretend to sell images or visuals to someone, but in that case, you know, what I've seen and what happened to me, to be honest, was like that. In order to be a businessman, in some ways, you should renounce at your artistic part. I don't know how to explain this, but when I started doing images, my main goal was to make it nicer, you know, and that was the goal. Doesn't matter if the client changed. I worked hours, nights, weekends. I didn't mind about that because that was my goal, making nice images. But then when you start becoming a company and you have to be in charge to deal with clients, that kind of artistic part is something that you have to try to like remove a little bit or forget a little bit, which is difficult. Which is difficult because artists normally, when they create something, they feel like the things they create are their babies. Okay, so if someone says something about what they do, they just get mad. But in terms of business, you have to deal with someone. So what I feel is that if you start thinking in terms of business, you have to also to think about that probably the product you will deliver most of the time is not the one that you have in your mind as a final result, because it's always a result, and the result is a compromise between what you think that is right and the client's demands. Yeah. So I agree with you. You should know about business, but when you know about business, at that time, you have to make a decision of what you want to be in this kind of world. Okay, so that's why most of the people start a company and they become businessmen, or they are artists. Yeah. And they do images from the day to the night. They do those kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important for the freelance mostly, yeah. But you can associate with someone that rules the company for you. For example, I myself prefer to investigate. It's my passion. I like to discover things. So I can't do business, but I realize that it's really important to know about business, to know how this works.
Absolutely, it's as I said, if you pretend to sell what you do, you should know about business. There is no such a way how you can avoid that.
Maybe the difference you are talking about, and it's been previously in other roundtables that has been talking about this thing about the art and clients, business, this friction, no? This constant friction. Mm-hmm. I think there are like two words that deal with this. No, it's the artist and the craftsman. Okay, so like in a modern way, the artist is someone that has a client. An artist, a modern artist. I'm not talking about Velázquez that only painted with a client, but in terms of modern art, there is no client. No, you are like your own expression. So I don't exactly see where the CG artist think really is in the Archviz, since there is always a client. For me, I feel very comfortable in the craftsman thing. No?
Yeah. Does anyone want to say something? Here? Yeah, maybe Anna.
Yes. So talking about this, how should I introduce, for example, somebody that I meet on the street, like when they ask me, so what do you do for a living? If, for example, if we cannot use, if you say that maybe we are not a 3D artist, or because I cannot say I'm an architectural visualizer, because they are not going to understand anything. So what do you guys think about what should we be called, or how should we communicate what we do, or how do you do it in your personal life to the society?
I can say something about this, Anna. When I came back to Italy after my London experience, we had a forum, like the Ronen one, but it's just for the Italian community, and there were like some general things, etc., etc. And then when people posted images, they called them renderings. I made this rendering, is an house, wherever, etc., etc. Then we started writing on that forum, and when we posted our images, we said, these are architectural visualization images. So if you want to make a change, we have to start promoting ourselves in that kind of way, because it's the only way how you can change things. After that experiment in Italy now, they finally says that when they post images about architecture, it's architectural visualization. There is a category into the forum that is called architectural visualization. Before of I would say us, but we started that. They were calling them renderings. Okay? So the change is something that has to start by us. So when people, VR, this kind of word, VR, now is everything is VR. Before, nowadays, no one knew about that word. But because people started, promoting VR, virtual reality, etc., now it's a common word. We need to start identifying ourselves in a way. Okay, I like the idea about architectural visualization because it's something that, in my personal opinion, is something that represents what I do. Probably it doesn't get all the shades of what we do, but at least identifies me in something. Okay, I cannot be a digital architect or I don't know, render making or whatever, okay? And another worst thing, people were calling us renderists.
Yeah.
And this is what we, now when we send the emails from SOA, at the end, when we have the details, telephone number, there is a word, don't call us renderists. Okay? Because if it happens, we don't reply to email, don't reply by phone, so that's the thing. Okay, so this is what, it's a matter of culture. If you start promoting yourself, and we agree that we are Archviz artists, or wherever you want, people will start hearing this word, and then they will, understand actually what you do. But if you don't start, or you say, to be honest, I don't know, the change will never happen.
Yeah, I would also say that, what do you say, actually? What do you normally say?
What I say is I do like a long explanation, and, because, for example, one day I posted on Facebook an image. It was like something, and then my mother said, "Nice picture" or "nice photo," and I'm like, "Mama, I don't do photos. I do this kind of CG photography, but it's not a photo." And but I don't know. Right? I don't know what is a render.
But maybe if your mother said that, then you are a photographer.
Yeah,
it's like not what you say you are, but maybe what people feel about what you are doing also, no?
Yeah,
I think it's not that... I think it's very important what you said, no? About how language, it's a very powerful thing, and we have to take this into account and don't be random about what we say about our work, that's for sure. But also this, about think about naming yourself, and that is kind of pretentious. Also, I think so.
Yeah, but I think you just have to be consistent. You should always say the same thing. I'm an architectural visualizer. If someone says, well, what is that? Then you explain it to them. And the next time they know. And then the next person you tell, they don't know what you tell them. It's just a matter of always saying what you do, Consistency is important.
Everybody says something different.
Yeah, but how do you, that's the point. I think architecture visualization is a very commonly accepted term for.
There's one thing, for example, doesn't happen with the word architect. Architect has no translation. It's a word that doesn't belong to any language at all. Actually, I don't know the etymology of architect. Maybe somebody here can help me, because I don't know where this word comes from. Okay, but what I know is that you go to Russia, you go to Australia, and you go to Mars, and everybody know what is an architect, because that's a word using in all languages. But just in our choice, in our industry, in Spanish, we cannot call us visualizadores de arquitectura.
Yeah, it's quite
which would be the direct translation. Actually, not by chance we chose English for the name of this association, because we somehow think that in English things sound like more appealing to the people, right? But because also maybe in English the words are more appropriate. But okay, you're an English guy. Help us find a definition in Spanish.
Well, I actually like renderist. I think it's catchy. It's catchy.
I like it.
Don't send me emails.
No, but I mean, what are you proposing? We create something that doesn't exist? I mean, I mean, it's what I mean is the term architectural visualizer is already a very descriptive term. I mean, it says what you're doing. I mean, before there was architecture visualization, there were architectural illustrators, and they were also kind of co-opting another term, an illustrator, and then they had architectural illustrators. I'm sure there were also people who were architectural illustrators who had the same problem. Somebody asked, "What do you do?" "I'm an architectural illustrator."
Right.
"What do you do then?" "I don't. Are you an architect?" No. I make. So I think to make something arbitrary is also not a great idea.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, though. The translations maybe in other languages, it's something else. But so maybe we use English, like you said.
Yeah. To
Always.
everyone. Yeah. Nick.
At Squint, I mean, I guess we you know, like there's a previous group we're talking about. We're doing lots of different things of like VR, branding, image making, and I think sort of visualization as a word. I think words are quite important, and visualization as a word seems to imply the ability to take an unfinished thing and visualize it, or to kind of to make an image of something which doesn't yet exist, or which is kind of just one component of what we do. So I know it's probably not the answer, but I always describe what we do as more communication around the built environment, around cities and architecture and what have you, because it sort of encompasses a much sort of broader field. And I think one of the reasons why we're all here today is so that we assess where our industry is going. And I think a term like visualization implies that we are sort of hemmed into quite a sort of a narrow field, whereas in fact we should sort of be sort of branching out into lots of different things. So branding could also be part of our job.
Yeah, actually, I was sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah,
I was thinking about Squint when I said specifically people who do architecture visualization, because there are a lot of offices that's not the case. You have within a lot of other things that you do, and you can't really say you're an architecture visualizer, because the reality is you guys do a huge band of things. So in that case, I see you guys are more like an agency, a creative agency, right? I mean, So in that case, it's not applying almost this specific term for someone who only does architectural visualization. But.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to that what we were talking about earlier. Is as you get more experience in something. I mean, I started off as an architect and then learned 3D software, and then sort of took it from there, and then got the experience of dealing with clients. And I guess that kind of broader. I mean, I don't ever touch 3D software these days, but it's still a sort of fundamental part of what I do. But I wouldn't describe myself as a visualizer, even though I come from that field. So I'd suggest something like Architecture Communication Association, or
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I agree with that. Also, when I'm asked what I am, so I would always say I'm an architect. So because that's my education, or my primary education. So I'm still an architect, and it will not change just because I'm specialized now in architectural visualization, and my company is doing architectural visualization. But me myself, I would always still call an architect, and so this. I think it's a bit. It depends where you come from. What is your education? Because I think we are not all architects, but probably a lot of architects. But maybe there are some that come from a more craftsman's like education, without a academic background, and maybe they see it completely different. And I think the jobs in the field of architectural visualization are also different. Or there's not only this one position. We have for sure bigger projects where you need some craftsmen and you need the more academic based guys. So it's not only one thing. So the definition what you really are is maybe not fixed. But I think the field could have one fixed name. I don't know if you agree. And just
because there was this discussion how, or that's the topic also, how education should look like. Maybe there's not one way, maybe there are these two ways, or it's necessary to have these two ways. The one which is more craftsmanship and really learning the tools, and where the education is not only in university, it's also into the companies that you learn it there. And the universities are teaching something different, more the reflective thing probably. It's two ways, the academic way and the craftsman's way.
Yeah, I think that's something I pointed, no? That it's like a mixed thing, no? That it's necessary the education outside the university for more the expertise thing on tools, like to becoming a really expert on tools, and this is the importance, no? In the meaning of the craft, of the craftsman, no? That it's like an expert in tools and got like a knowledge, a deep knowledge of how the tool is working, and even transcends this knowledge to a deeper knowledge. But at the same time having this critic background and theoretical background also there. Yeah, both.
Yeah, guys. Well, so we're talking about communication, and it's really important in our field. So I would like to ask you for some advices concerning the diffusion and the communication of our work. So all of you guys have experience on this field, just either by spreading your knowledge or organizing events, conferences, masters, and so on, or just expanding your business brand. So what strategies would you recommend to improve the communication of our purposes? I mean, do you think that there is something essential that any entrepreneur should have in mind?
I think it should be specific. Yeah. And the idea that it's not the people that choose you, but it's you with your message that choose the people that it's calling you. No, it's kind of making a portfolio. If you make a portfolio only of structural analysis, I don't think any office will call you for, for making competitions. No, it's more probably that they call you for structural analysis. So the communication, the more specific it is, you have to have in mind that it's your decision who calls you. It's not that much the decision of who receives that email, I think.
Yeah.
I have something to say about communication. I have little experience in communication, but I discovered some things about communication that are really important for me. I think the way we communicate, it's different, and will be different today, because now we have the internet and the social network, and this changed everything, in my opinion. Now the communication is about trust. If you create something that make another people trust you, for example, if you create quality content or content that apport, what's the word for? Something to other people. If you do it constantly, you will get trust for the people. No? And I think I didn't realize about that. I used to think in communication in the old-fashioned way, like you are bombarded with commercials in the TV, and through repetition, finally you buy the car because you are sick of seeing the same car one and another time. But right now, I think it's different. You need to build the trust of your clients, or maybe your partners. I don't know. I believe you need to create something that adds value to the industry, so the industry trusts in you. It's my personal experience.
I totally agree with Adán about this. The thing we are doing right now in SOA, we say that for studio, we say that for the academy day we organize, is related to the good communication of the brand. Well, basically, when we started the company, but this is applied on all the activities we do in SOA. What we do is related to the quality. We never give up for the final quality, for the final result. The quality of the things we deliver has to be always top-notch. Otherwise, you can't really build a solid brand. And so people will not trust you. And I think this is the success of what we are doing, because all the courses we do are always sold out. The Academy Day is always sold out. But that's a good thing. That's a good thing because it means that we are working into the right direction. When we started, we said probably we will not become the richest man in the world in doing what we do. Mm-hmm. But at the end, the only thing we will not renounce is the quality. So everything we do has that kind of direction. So the quality, the best quality we can deliver in that kind of condition. If you do that, your brand will be always strong and people will trust you no matter what you do. And unfortunately, this has a cons. If you do something wrong at least once, you are kaput. Yeah. But this is part of the game. It depends on what you want to do in your life, Working for quality means a lot of effort. You cannot really, let's say, give up for a second. You have always to be there and you have to pump as much as you could because, quality means a lot of effort. But at the end, this is the feel we have. It doesn't matter if they are with the students, it doesn't matter if we are with clients, it doesn't matter if with all the professionals that every year attend the Academy Day. It's about this. We do things with care. And if you do that, your brand will be extremely successful. That's one of the things that I really like to suggest. Then the way how you communicate, the media, it can be internet, it can be, beyond social media, your own portfolio, wherever. It doesn't really matter. What people will see is what you can actually give them. And if people see always cool things, your brand will be really, really valuable and will be strong.
Yeah, I can speak to that as well, especially regarding the building up of the conference, because it started small. Nobody knew what it was. Of course, it was something that we constantly worked on. And that was basically all of our discussions were about that, the quality. Keeping it high. And eventually people begin to see, okay, it's good, trust you and whatever. But it's always an issue. What are we showing? How are we showing it? And this goes beyond the conference, but that's just in a very specific example. So absolutely, this is extremely important. Your how you show yourself to the world. It's really important.
Even because what we realize is that people are not stupid. Because
not all of them.
No, all of them. No, people are not stupid. If you try to fuck them, they will clearly spot you straight away. So you can try to do that once, but then second time it will not work. So people, we realize that you are not strong enough to deliver what you are promising. And that is really important to understand, because what I've seen sometimes is that people, even in the Archviz industry, people go to some clients and they promise like Pixar movies in 1 week for €100.
Yeah.
and then the client say, "Oh, that's nice. We go for it."
Yeah, missing something.
And then nothing happened. But this is happen quite often. Mm-hmm. We have to be honest, first of all. When we communicate, we don't really have to pretend to be someone else. We have to be honest, because if you base everything on, let's say, on a healthy relation with people, with your audience, etc., people will understand that, and you will succeed. The worst thing is when you go to a client or you propose something as a course, as a conference, you promise something and then you don't deliver that. That's the worst thing that you can do. So in terms of communication, in my humble opinion, you have to be honest with people you are dealing with. Yeah. Okay, then the quality is another matter. You know, quality, if you're a good artist, it will succeed. It will happen, okay? But first of all, you have to be honest with people.
Okay. Does anyone from the 0 row want to say something? Or the public as well? I would like to listen your approach, Ronen, about this kind of things, because
well, I call the craft because of your remark over there, because we're making work for clients, for people, so that's just a small comment about that. And to pick up on something that Adán mentioned, I recently published on the job board, not even on the blog itself, but on the job board, a series of articles that we did in partnership with Normally from Canada. Mm-hmm. And we called it the Archviz series, because I felt it personally as I established my new studio, but also from people on the blog sending me emails and commenting on social media, that they don't really know and don't really know where to find information about how to handle situations with clients, how to do contracts, how to manage projects, how you always deliver on a deadline, how you can make sure it happens. So I feel there is a gap if I want to focus on one thing in terms of the education and communication topic, is there's pretty much enough information about how to make an image, but there's very little information about how to do the business. So in my part, what I try to cover, what I think more people should feel more open to share, is about ways they do business. Stories that they learned from, what they changed due to that. Don't just talk about, oh, I had this bad client experience. Talk about what I learned from that bad client experience. What did I do to change that so it doesn't happen again? What did I do to change so it's better next time? And same thing about, okay, so one client sued me, so what did I learn in terms of the legal aspects of that? Okay, so and covering this aspect, I think is something that more of us should feel more open to talk about. Okay, so initially, people would ask you, what's your settings? And we were cringing, sure. And today you say, okay, I'll give you the settings. Yeah. What would you do with them? I mean, what does it matter, Yeah. So when people ask you about pricing, you have this kind of similar cringing effect, but we should feel, maybe not about pricing, but feel free to talk about how I manage a project, what do I send clients so expectations are met, and things like that. Studio culture is something that I'm really fascinated with. So what Normally mentioned in the article, at the latest SOA Academy Day, we've seen a really cool video from The Boundary in London, what they do. So all the things they do that are not related to the image making is they're traveling, taking photos of projects, yachting, jumping in water, drones and stuff like that. So, and people can connect with that and learn from that. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I wanted to say that there's two reasons that we started the conference, and one of them is to create a place where people come together and can talk about things like that. I mean, because honestly, people are coming for the speakers, but they're really coming to talk to each other. I mean, because you see the same people at the different places, and that's the greatest part of it. And there's this exchange always. And it's much easier to have this kind of conversation in person with someone than it is to do it on a forum or on in other ways. But this way you really can have one-on-one conversations with people. And the second reason is because we just also wanted to hang out with all of these people to bring the best people and hang out with them. So.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should be finishing, but I'm pretty curious about what do you think about authorship? Because maybe in case one of our works make it to the general press, or because the architectural project is important, or because the images were done for some famous architects, for some local studios, it's unusual to make it to the credits. So it's hardly mentioned, our studio or company, and if you're not one of the famous ones, you know, and why do you think this really happened?
Well, about this, I think this is one thing that is related to the business management, because copywriting is something that is something really well known into the photography, for example. But it seems that in our industry, is a topic that no one knows at all. And when we started SOA, and this is a lesson that I learned in London, to be honest. We hired a lawyer, and this lawyer was expert in copywriting. So basically, when we make an agreement with the client, we have to deliver images for them. There is a part of the agreement where we decide about the copywriting. So if they have to publish our images, they have to copyright it. They have to mark the images with the credits. If it doesn't happen, they will be sued from us. So, and things are clear from the beginning, because I feel that is an important aspect of what we do.
Yeah, so it appears in your contract, right?
Yeah, it's built in our contract, but that's for sure. That is how it has to be, because in the photography, it's a common practice. I mean, we are not talking about,
even royalties.
Yeah, royalties, etc., etc. Then it's up to you if you want to sell the credits or the right to your images to the client for more money or whatever. But copywriting, if you think about it, guys, what we do is the only way how we can promote ourselves is through the images we do. So if people don't know who has made that kind of image, you will not be able to get new clients. We work in a wonderful industry where you don't really need to speak, because the images sometimes have to speak for themselves. Okay, so I feel that's the beauty of what we do. Because images are a sort of universal language. So if we don't speak English or other languages, an image can tell you a lot of things. But yes, in order to be recognized, and if you want that the clients find you in some ways, they have to know who have made. So the copywriting is part of the agreement. It must be part of the agreement. And I don't know why in our industry this kind of topic is not really considered. I mean, as far as I have seen in the past.
Victor?
I want to say about this, I completely agree, 100%. And it's the thing that we really put ourselves really serious with this, because, as you said about photographers, when you see a famous photograph or whoever it is of a famous building, you will see that architects always credit them, always. And the thing is, I think that we should, in this matter, reunite more, because it's the only way, if we are talking about getting this to a next level, to be more serious, to be more recognized as architectural visualizers, illustrator, whatever, put the name you want to it. This is really serious. It's a serious issue because it's all your effort. So we, in example, we do exactly the same by contract from first day. It's something that goes both ways, because it's not that we tell the studios, okay, this image, the intellectual property is obviously ours, but the thing is, each time we publish that image, we're going to credit you as the authors of the project, but the same way, each time you do put our image, you must credit Beauty and the Beat. And the thing is, at the beginning, it wasn't so easy,
But lately, we're really picky about this. And for example, it happened to us in Architizer or Arc Daily or Arc whatever, that they put the image and they forgot. But in the press note, a press release from that studio, Beauty and the Beat was credited. It was credited the landscapers, everybody, but sometimes they forget the visualizing part of the project. And these are really is really important to really stand for this.
Yeah.
It's absolutely, for me, it's vital.
I'm with you with this, Victor. I mean, it's fundamental. You know, it's really something really important. You know, because otherwise no one will know. Because right now, you know, you have architectural firms that do images inside. Mm-hmm. So you can even think, if you don't see the credits, that probably they have done the images in-house, but probably it's not the case.
I just want to add something. In photography, there is something called image licensing. You know about that? You heard about that, right? Photographers use it to quantify the eventual fees that they should get when their photos get published somewhere. And this licensing, actually, there are several ways, there are lots of different ways to calculate those fees. Actually, there is no universal way. But for instance, you take into consideration where that image is being published, in the front page and the last page. What size? 2 pages, just small header. How many, let's say, magazines or newspapers gonna be printed with that image, and in how many countries that magazine is gonna be delivered. So all these variables are taken into account when it's time to calculate the image licensing of that image. And I would just like to ask anybody here who is working, is anybody who is charging image licensing in their budgets?
I did it once.
Who?
I did it once.
So
it was one of these things that I tried, like I said, like triple the fee or something like that. So I added it in the small print. It was a simple text that said, if the images are going to be used in a TV commercial, then it would be subject to additional cost. Now, I totally forgot about it. And about, 3-4 months after the project was finished, the advertising agency called me because they have a really good legal department, and they looked at the contract and they saw inside that they can't use the images if it's going to TV. So they just asked me, okay, so how much is it? Obviously, I told them how much and I got paid. But try to pass this one by a developer and it will not happen.
Well, because the developer is not a publisher.
Yeah.
And
Exactly,
probably he will not never understand what an image licensing is.
Yeah.
Maybe,
You know,
maybe
so the developer needs to understand that he is actually you have to charge him for 2 things: the production of that image and the
Distribution.
and the showcasing of that image. And they need to understand. I don't know how, but they need to understand. I mean, these are 2 different things, okay? Because you are producing something that will stay there, will remain. Maybe it's not going to be. I mean, an image of a visual of a building has a very, very specific use. You know, probably is just one single use, and then they throw it away. Yeah. So it's not the same case as photographs. You know, so it's if you go to any photography bank in the internet, you will hardly find 3D images. They're mostly regular standard photography because they're being reused and reused and reused, and that's good news for the photographer. You know, if you're a good photographer, you could be living on one single picture you made maybe 25 years ago, and that's not the case when you are just providing a visual, because that visual of that building, the goal is just one, unless you somehow, convince the people that that image can be used for many other things. You know, evidently there are projects made maybe, for example, in cities like New York, cities that catch a lot of attention, that probably they get displayed again and again and again and again. So there are some cases in which images could be licensed and charged, but that I think is some sort of exception. you know. But in any way, I think it's important that what Ronen has said, that it would be nice to try, at least try, and say, okay, let's charge for image licensing. Let's think about, okay, let's visualize, let's imagine the usage of that image and put it in the budget.
Yeah, I know a studio in Vienna that was doing that, and they were the guy who was running it. He was really almost paranoid in the way that he would charge architects for the images. It was always based on what's going to be used for. Is it going to be in a marketing brochure 1,000 times? Is it going to be imprinted somewhere? Dependent. If it's a competition, only one time. Maybe you see it in a magazine, but is it like a one-time thing? And I know that he lost clients because of it. But what you can say is the reason he lost clients is because they knew they could go somewhere else where nobody did it. And so so this is like that's the point. Everyone has to do it. If only a percentage of people do it, you could potentially have problems. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to change the whole thing, because architects in competition usually give all their rights away when they entry. So it's just not possible with our main clients. So you really have to change the whole thing, and it's two things: the ownership, the naming, and the licensing. And about the licensing, I'm also a bit more relaxed, let's say. Yeah, but we have different contracts. I think we get paid 3 or 4 times for extra licensing. But we usually give exclusive rights now. So because this is also happening quite little, and then arguing with the companies when they read it, and then saying, but this is wrong, and then you start all that. So it's more work than we actually make money with afterwards. So.
Yeah, I think the first hurdle is getting credited for the images you do. I mean, that's probably the first important thing, and then could be next. But
well, I guess we have another approach over there.
Yeah. I agree completely with what you're talking about, but architecture is constantly changing and projects are constantly changing. And I guess if the image you do is for a final publication to put in a magazine or to sell the product or whatever, I understand. But some projects could last 5 years or 10 years. And you might do an image for to pass the city zoning laws or to get an approval by the government or by the region or whatever, and they might take your image, but how architects work, it's all last minute and they start doing things on top of it. Or then a commercial person comes along and they change all the people, and then they change the storefronts, and then the building you did changed and they kind of Photoshop it out and put another one. At what point is that still your image? I mean, the base might have been your image, and there's still like the resemblance to your image, but it's not your image anymore. You don't have your authorship. And
let's say that in our contract there is not the possibility to change the image by them. So if they do that, they will sue.
Yeah, that's like an appropriation. That's actually not really allowed normally. I mean, in
it's
general,
illegal.
Yeah.
It's illegal.
And that's exactly the idea that it's underneath this, that the images are usually thought by architects as part of a mechanism, but not an end body itself. No, so I think this thing about the license, this is something that it's more complex than authorship, and it's for sure you will need like a lawyer, for this, and a consultancy for these kind of things. Yeah. This is not something that you have to figure out. No. You for sure need help for this.
Yeah, if you sell the architect the image and there's no mention of any of those things, they own the image, the rights, everything, and so they can do what they want with it. Then it really is their image, and there's no recourse. It's up to you to decide if you want to do that or not.
But the thing is, photographers, architectural photographers, do it for real estate, for example. If you exploit the image for 1 year, you have to pay one type of license. If you use for 2 years, you need to pay more. We can do something similar. We can I think this event can be the beginning or maybe people talking about those things and start thinking about, oh, okay, maybe I can think about it. You know?
Yeah, we're back to business again.
Yeah. I don't know if we have like 2 minutes. I prepare like an advice for the ones who are starting right now or thinking about starting in this industry. I don't know if there is someone here. Oh, so let's.
Don't do it. No.
Yeah,
I'm kidding. Well, it's fun.
It's based on my own experience, so can be completely wrong. So, but I want to share with you. I think I have like 4 advices for those who want to start in this business. The first one is, first, try to be passionate about what you do. That's really important for me. Find something you really like. Can be anything. I don't say you need to make beautiful images. Maybe it's another thing. But try to find something that you really like, spend time doing. Because, believe me, this business takes a lot of time. And the second one is turn off your computer. It sounds crazy, but it works for me. I believe that everything we create, it's inspired by the world we live in. So turn off the computer and get outside and try to look at the world in different ways. You know, try to get inspired by the world, by nature, maybe by buildings, by metal, whatever you feel like it's an inspiration. And try to look at the world in, for example, I like to know what's behind the things. You know, it's like more a scientific, approach. I want to know. It's a crazy stuff from mine. Or you can use tools. For example, a camera is a great tool to forces you to look at the world in different ways, because you suddenly have a frame, for example, or paint. Painting forces you to realize different things from the world that they are right here, and you didn't realize about that. And the third thing that's important for me, it's to focus on the fundamentals. Sounds like a really basic stuff, but nobody is doing it, or not so many people it's working the fundamentals. Fundamentals can be applied to almost any artistic profession, painting, photography, sculpture. And believe me, if you focus on the fundamentals when you are starting, it will help you for the rest of your life. And the last one, and I finish with this, don't be afraid to fail. Be willing to fail, because creativity needs you to take risk, to fail, to try something new, to do crazy stuff. And after all of this, turn back on the computer and choose a program you like and start working with the program. This will be my advice.
Yeah, I wanted to add something to that, because we talked about it earlier, a little while ago, that one of the things that makes people do a lot of things they do is fear. Sure. You're afraid. It's the discussion about how much do I charge, what do I put into contract, do I use a contract, things like that. People are afraid they're going to lose a client or not get a client. The thing is you have to decide yourself. If I want to do it, then do it. Don't be afraid of it. Because if you be prepared for that, the fact that it could happen. Because if you've decided for yourself that's how I'm gonna do it, then there should not be another consideration. You think about it logically in your mind and analytically how you want to do things, and then do it like that. I think that's really important, not to be afraid to do these things.
Yeah, I couldn't end this debate better. So, well, I guess we have to finish. And does anyone want to say something more or to ask something?
Is there any chance to make some kind of collective contract template to share with each other, so it's kind of standard for?
In fact, this is something that I've been thinking all the time. You were talking about contracts, because we have discussed this many times in our meetings, in our gatherings. I'm going to send you an email at the tomorrow, Monday or Tuesday, asking you if you want to share part of your contracts or whatever you feel. Of course, we will format everything. We will delete your names, everything, and hopefully share it to the community, so that we can choose. Because anyone that has done a contract sometime has done a copy paste of some other contracts. So we have a good amount of work you already done. I'm pretty sure we will have a nice contract, and we can adapt it to any condition, any client, any company. So I'm going to send you an email to know you're warned.
Yeah, but it seems that's like actually the purpose of doing something like the Architecture Visualization Association is this kind of stuff. So that people have a resource about these kind of issues. Like, I have no idea how to do it. What do I do? And this is where it comes in now.
We're entering the next debate, actually. We have like some sort of logistic. Sorry.
If I can say something about this contract, it should be related to the process, because you can't build a contract that works every time for every kind of job if every one of us follow a different process.
I'm pretty sure you yourself change the contract sometimes.
I think we all have like a contract, no? Like a process, and depends on the client. You always like, okay, this line I will erase it, or this, I have to add something, no? Because this is like.
I think, Javier, I'm sorry to say that I don't agree with this idea of yours, but anyway, you can do. Yeah, you can. We always fight. I mean, you will get used to this. I think it's more important to teach people how to make contracts.
Yeah, we go to the lawyer school.
No. It's not. No, you don't need to go to the lawyer school, but I mean, you need to know where things come from. I mean, if you're just like stimulating people to do copy paste, I mean, in the end, they will do copy pasting and rendering.
Okay, but the thing is, how many people has a contract here? You raised your hands before. It was like, now I know you. Okay, that's really, really low. So if you have, it's a starting point. Yeah, it's a starting point, of course. Then go to your lawyers and get sued, and go and for a bunch of money, and then go to the lawyers again. But it's a starting point. Maybe it could give you some ideas, and you will see what other people do. That's just, it's not to use it. Is to know what other people is doing, just to be aware. Maybe if you want to do it like this,
That's how I understood it. That you meant as an example, what's possible, or what could be inside. But of course, you have to tailor it to the project, the client, the situation, the country. I mean, it could be different in many ways. But
and also, just to add one thing, I think it's very important, as I see also a lot of young people here. For example, I have this kind of contracts, okay? I'm freelance, I work for small clients, I don't have like super big productions. I'm working also like in different fields at the same time, like crossing and this kind of non-orthodox thing. And I have a contract. So it's not a matter of only if you have like a big company to have this contract. Even it's more important if you are a freelance and a small company, because it's there when you can get really screwed up. Yeah.